We know it's been a doozy. We know it's been crazy, chaotic, weird, challenging, struggling. We know all those things about 2020, but do you actually know how 2020 has changed branding? Do you understand the extent to which you get to fluctuate and evolve, all because 2020 was all those things: challenging, exhausting, tiring, amazing, exciting, thrilling, scary, all those things. It completely affects your brand. For those of you who I have not yet met in person, my name is Amber Griffiths, and I'm a brand strategist and a maker of legends. So it's that time again. Grab your legend pack, crank that speaker to 11. Welcome to Legend. Today, I want to talk to you a little bit about the events of 2020 and how they actually are impacting your brand, or at least whether you're aware of it or not, they are. Because your brand is everything you do to create this experience that is consistent and attractive and engaging for your ideal clients. Of course, a year like 2020 is going to affect that in ways that have never before been seen quite to this extent. People evolve, people change, brands evolve, brands change. That is always true. It will always be true. But the extent of which you get to adjust that seems to be a little heightened this year. Now, last year, I was telling you about how 2020 has to be the year of intense connection. I didn't know COVID was going to hit and make my words even more true than I originally thought. But connection, it's got to be about connection. Now, for those of you who are in the League of Legends, the group coaching experience, we're going to dive into this a little bit deeper, but because there's no time to quite dive into it to that level. Today, I just want to share with you some of the events and how they are changing things, how they get to change your content, your messaging, how you get to evolve. So let's start at the beginning, right? For those of my friends in Australia, for those of you who have friends and family in Australia, January started with a nation on fire, like literally on fire. I remember speaking to some of my friends there and worrying about the smoke levels and if they had to evacuate or not. I mean, it was a big deal. Those of us in the States were still trying to figure out if it meant how that impacted us at all. Then, of course, we have COVID. That's the big, not even elephant in the room. It really is too big to even be an elephant in the room. That's the big one that is still impacting decisions, events, behavior, conversations like crazy. It still is there. We went into, we're going to stay at home. Then we're going to work from home. Then we're going to have school in home, such that it is, as I try to educate my fourth grader to whatever extent that's possible for me. Here in Utah, we had massive earthquake shortly thereafter. I believe it was still in March, to the strength and degree that we haven't seen in decades. And then later, a month or two later, we had hurricane strength winds rip through the middle of our cities, leaving chaos and destruction and even more feeling of unsettling. Nancy, hello. It's so nice to see you here. Yes, it's a whole year of things we had to adjust to. And every single year is like that. This is just wowzers. This one's just big, right? Then we got into massive conversations about masks. Are they good? Are they bad? It was almost like the egg. Is it good for cholesterol, bad cholesterol? What is it? And we watched, in fact, we still have it. We still have conversations about whether or not we should be wearing masks. So many people say, absolutely, of course, mask is one of the most simple, easy things that you can do to prevent the spread of, well, frankly, anything. Like keep your spit to yourself, right? And yet we watched, especially in those first early months of the pandemic, we watched how something as simple as a mask could completely divide families and influence conversations. We watched America get really divided, social inequality. I watched families and friends be torn apart, again, based on different ideals and values. There has been huge political disruption on every level. This year, we got to have the bonus of the presidential election on top of everything else, but there has been political disruption and upheaval on every level, cities and states and the entire country. The election in November, still for some for some people, and I don't understand why, it's still being disputed. the election that we thought, we were prepared to have it not be called that night, but for it to be extending this many weeks out, it still has a level of unrest that leaves people waiting to celebrate, waiting to be upset, waiting. Like we knew the hope that that election brought, right? Regardless of which side you were on, let's specifically speaking about the presidential election, the hope that that potential could be, the disappointment that election brought, regardless of what side you're on. There was a lot of there was a lot of emotion and energy around that. And now here we are in December, and one of the big things is the hope for a vaccine. The awareness, though, that it's more complicated than just, hey, here you are, everybody who wants one, here, have a vaccine. There's tons of content that came out. I mean, the internet, social media was flooded with new content, all based around this pandemic, because it's one of those things that affected everyone. And it affected everyone in so many levels of their life, their personal, their business, all of it. Tons of new content came out. The phrase PPE, one of those things that nobody other than those in the industry had ever heard before, and now it's a common household term. There's hoarding, all the hand sanitizer, the toilet paper, the Clorox wipes. You still can't find Clorox wipes consistently in a Costco, but to the point of people hoarding those to such extent that now Costco has even said, if you were hoarding this and you want to come back, there's no return. I don't care if you have a receipt or not. You put other people's lives at risk. We're not going to support that. You don't get a refund for these things, for these specific items. I mean, that's the kind of content that was coming out from people, from stores, from industries. So another change. Now you're working from home. You're at home. You're stuck there a little bit. No, not a lot of travel. Working from home, probably teaching school from home, networking from home. But it's no longer about teams and departments and different businesses. It's all about you. And it's all about your persona. It's all about how you are showing up on Zoom every day, all day. Personal conversations, business conversations, casual conversations, and intense planning, all happening online in your little rectangle of love, your persona. What are you allowing to come through? What are you insisting it comes through? All of these world events affected your brand. They've changed branding intensely. These events increased brands, they expanded them, and in some areas it actually diminished the brand. There have been some blurred brands out there as people lose their business, as people combine efforts to try to stay afloat. We've had so many businesses have to close their doors in so many different industries, and yet there are also so many businesses, big and small, that have thrived this year. And some of that's based on the ability to change and shift, and some of it, hey Tim, so nice to see you. Some of it is based on the foundations that they already had put together. Some of that is the ability to shift what you're offering. Some of it's the ability to see an opportunity to serve deeply through what is absolutely fundamentally life changing. Our language has changed. These events they've made us very sensitive to certain words and even certain concepts. So for example, every time we think we know this is what we want, right? This is the thing that we want. Well, then it's more complicated than that. We think it's just this, but it really gets more complicated. Everyone who thought, I just want to work from home, I'm tired of traffic, I'm tired of putting on shoes, that would be me. Everybody got their wish in spades. And now so many of us realize we really want to go back to the office. Can we please put on shoes? Can we please just go out there and drive and deal with traffic so that we can get to our people, so that we can have that human connection that so many of us have taken for granted? Collectively, we didn't realize how important the human connection was. So content must change. Content must be more about connection now more than ever, Tim, because we're longing for it. Those of us who are on one side of the political spectrum or another, we knew it was going to be just terrible and devastating if our candidate didn't win. But maybe we didn't take time to think about how complicated a win or to still hold office would be. We didn't think about how it could divide further a nation, further than it already was, already. Some of us don't care about that and some of us do. And by the way, that care or not caring does not flow along political lines. So how do you handle the individuality plus the greater good for the group? That is one of those things that gets to come out in your content and your brand. It's at the forefront, and we get to see more and more of that. We have been begging for a vaccine, and now that one is right here on the horizon. I mean, I think the first person got vaccinated yesterday. I was watching it. I think it was either yesterday or this morning. First person got vaccinated, but now there get to be conversations about, well, who gets it first? Those who are first on the scene, working tirelessly to save the lives of strangers, while the rest of us were trying to figure out how, usually failing, how to consistently separate one day from the next. Or does the vaccine go to those who are the most susceptible to the virus, those who have been holed up and that are seniors? Does it go to everyone, or does everyone have to have it? Should everyone have to have it? Where is the greater good? What began as a simple request, not to develop, but to have, a vaccine came with a whole slew of tough conversations. It becomes a distribution nightmare. Are we ready for it? And what else do we have to give up? What else do we have to wait for before we do? This is true in business too. If you had this whole wish list of ideal clients and they suddenly all showed up and your inbox exploded and they all showed up ready to work with you, are you ready for it? Are you ready for that kind of change? Does your content speak to it? Does your content help your people get ready and see the complication behind the easy solutions? Oh, I just need a brand. Oh, there's multidimensional stuff going on in there. Oh, I just need to do a Facebook Live ad or a Facebook Live, or I just need to do a Facebook ad. Let's talk about all the concepts behind that. Does your content speak to that? And do you prepare your people for that kind of complication? So, a part of branding has become even more about deep, meaningful, authentic connection. Part of branding has become about being more real. We crave it. We know we respond to it more deeply, more solidly when someone is authentic, when someone feels real, like it pulls us in, right? And yet, so many still hesitate to do that. So many still hesitate to be real and to allow people to come in and really be connected. Part of your brand has become that your persona is the thing that stands. Your persona will be the very last thing that stands. It's you on your Zoom call, right? It's you in your Hollywood Square, Brady Bunch, whatever. It's your Vogue Zoom. Even though your company will be represented, sure. Really, it's you that people will remember or not. The longing to be together, the big questions about, is it one for one or one for all? I mean, it feels like Three Musketeers, right? Gatherings, holidays, mask wearing. The big issue is, are you just taking care of yourself or are you taking care of others? And what does others mean? How do you take care of the big divides? How are they negotiated? Is there common ground to be created? Is there civility present? How do you handle simple solutions that are really very complicated? All of those issues are a part of branding. They're all a part of how you're showing up and the experience you're providing for your people. It's about your message. It gets to be solid and clear, but still have the flexibility to be sensitive and flow with the needs of your people. It's about how you deliver everything, not just what you deliver, but how you're delivering it. The events of 2020 have affected every single aspect of your brand. You still get to claim the rules. You still get to decide who and where and how much. You still get to show up to the level that you insist upon. But you get to take into consideration everything that the world has changed, as much as you have changed, as much as your behavior has changed. It's done that for your ideal clients too. It's done that, and the experience you're creating for them gets to reflect that. So, like I said, we dive into this much more deeply in the League of Legends, but I wanted you just to consider everything has 2020 has been a heck of a thing. It's been it's been amazing. I talked to people the other day and they said, we listened to the radio and it was so negative. And yet there are so many people I speak to who are like, this is the best year ever. I've never been able to do this. I was chasing this path, and because of COVID, because I had to do this, I had to change this and this and this. I've never been happier. I hit my numbers in July for the year. I've been able to impact so many more people because so many people are listening and open to change. There's a lot of opportunity, and I don't mean like taking advantage of or kind of, smarmy, but there's a lot of opportunity to reach into what you're really creating and deeply serve those are you who you are uniquely qualified to help. That's all part of your brand, my friends. All of it. Next week, we're going to talk a little bit more about how that changes in 2021 and the things you can do specifically to move that forward and what that looks like. And I will tell you right now, it is brand centric, it is content, it is deliverables, it is delivery, it is the customer experience because it always is. It always has to be. There are ways to find even those. I know it's kind of like that overwhelm thing, right? It's really easy to get sucked into that and stay there. I'm one of those people who have lost people this year. And still, there are amazing things that have happened. But you get to decide how your brand shifts with it, how it evolves with it, and how it's going to move into 2021 and how you help prepare your people to do it. So I cannot wait to see you in 2021. I invite you to join me next week, Thursday, 12 o'clock Mountain. And we're going to talk about what to expect and how to prepare for it in 2021 when it comes to your brand. For those in the League of Legends, we're going to be talking about this as well. If you haven't joined the League of Legends yet, I invite you to check that out too. It's yourbrandbydesign.com/the league. See what it's all about. See if it's for you. I invite you to check that out. So until I get to see you, whether it's in the league or just again next week, rock on.